Hello, family. This be Afrobeat police again. Yeah, you know how they do them. So, in a tweet about 7 days ago, King Sarkodie, on Twitter made a post. And the post was about DJ Abante. He actually posted an interview conducted by Adeshope of DJ Abante. And he captioned it, and he was raining praises on DJ Abante. And in that interview, the topic of conversation was the popularization of Afrobeat and the role DJ Abante played in that popularization. Abante spoke on how, at a time when no one knew anything about Afrobeat, especially in the Western world, at a time when in the Western world, most people didn't even know anything about African music. Most Westerners didn't listen to African music. It was probably only diasporans who visited the continent regularly, who visited places like Ghana and Nigeria regularly, that knew Afrobeat and how good the various genres of African music was, how pleasing certain songs were to the ear, you know. And Abrantier spoke about how he laid his career on the line to pitch an idea to his boss at the time to have a program that played such music consistently. And at the time, he himself was a bit skeptical as to whether the masses were going to receive that in good faith, as to whether the audience were going to love the sounds that he was playing at the time. And Sarkodie, in his tweet, said a very big thank you to Abrantier. Apparently, according to some people on Twitter, that wasn't the first time he posted something about that. And so Obede post to say a big thank you to Abrantier on behalf of the entire African continent, especially music lovers, Afrobeat lovers. And honestly, Abrantier coined the term Afrobeat when he started that show where he was playing that kind of music on his platform in a territory where that kind of music wasn't even slightly popular. It wasn't a favorite. The audience, it was basically a bet for Abrantier and his boss, really, because there was no guarantee that people were going to love that kind of music, especially it coming from a part of the world where Westerners didn't have much interest in at the time. So the term Afrobeat was first introduced as a collective term for African pop music by DJ Abrantier on his radio show on London-based Choice FM in April 2011. So he actually coined and popularized the term Afrobeat. Now, his show was instrumental in bringing artists like D'banj and Fuso DJ to mainstream daytime radio in the UK. And this was responsible for the rise of Afrobeat as we know it today. So the rise of Afrobeat that people have been talking about for a while now, it started in 2011, April 2011, if I'm correct. And so Abrantier is largely credited with the rise of Afrobeat because he started that whole movement. I know people like Sarkodie who were pushing that agenda even before the Afrobeat thing blew up all over the world, or even before Afrobeat rose to global dominance. Sarkodie, even though he's a rapper, is an Afrobeat artist as well. So I've seen like interviews from back in the day where on tour in the UK and in the US, Sarkodie kept talking about the African invasion, really it was like a prophecy. He kept talking about the African invasion and how in the next decade or more, that was at the time. At the time, he said that in the next decade or more, African music will be taking over. The Afrobeat will be invading places, and it's happening today. Started a while ago, but it's happening. It's still happening, and it will probably continue to happen if the key players in that sector play their cards right. Now, it's important to note the fact that the current crop of Afrobeat superstars rode on the backs of actual legends. When it comes to the story of Afrobeat, what usually happens is the wrong people are credited with the success of Afrobeat. Today, not necessarily the wrong people, but the people who aren't necessarily supposed to be at the forefront, or the people who didn't start the movement, the people who didn't put in the most effort when it comes to the success of Afrobeat are the ones benefiting from its rise today. I mean, think about people like R2Bs. Wizkid, for example, rode on the back of R2Bs for years. R2Bs carried Wizkid on his shoulders. R2Bs is a group, so R2B, they carried Wizkid on their shoulders for years. Mugis, Omar Sterling. When Wizkid used to come to Accra to collaborate for hits. When Davido used to come to Accra to look for hit songs. When Burna Boy, while being chased by the Lagos police, came to Accra to hide in Shatawale's house while making music at the same time. It was around that time that they released that monster hit, Hosanna. Hosanna. Was it Shatawale featuring Burna Boy or Burna Boy featuring Shatawale? Probably Shatawale featuring Burna Boy. That's Hosanna. So that's how the story of Afrobeat gets distorted. A lot of people believe that Fela Kuti was the one who coined the term Afrobeat. I don't know how true that is. I don't know to what extent that is true. But even if Fela coined that term, Abrantier deserves to be credited with the popularization of the term and the genre itself. Because Afrobeat was really nobody even knew that collective name Afrobeat until Abrantier brought it up. It's very unfortunate that when it comes to the sort of Afrobeat, the wrong people are always credited. Credit is not necessarily given where it's due. And that's why today, artists like Burna Boy feel like they have wings and so they can do whatever they want. When Burna Boy decides to behave in a very unacceptable manner on stage and he takes a stance of not apologizing to anyone and talks about the fact that he hasn't begged anyone to be his fan, it's very distasteful because we saw Burna Boy back in the day. We saw Burna Boy in Accra when he organized the concert and 14 people showed up. Today he's at his glory days, so he feels like an untouchable superstar. Sorry, but one thing people like him need to remember is the journey started from somewhere, from a point where no one was even paying attention, and it's now at a place where the genre is now at a place where people are actually raising eyebrows like, wow, we can't believe we slept on good music like this for years. And instead of making the right moves, artists like Burna Boy don't know their left from their right. So that's the story of Afrobeat. Basically, that's an admission from, not necessarily an admission because it's something he's probably said more than a few times, from Sarkodie, who is definitely one of the pioneers of the Afrobeat invasion, giving credit to DJ Abrantier and talking about the fact that Abrantier actually laid his career on the line. Because imagine if that move hadn't worked out. Where would Abrantier be now, and where would he have been at the time? What would have been the consequences at the time? Because pitching such an idea to your boss and being like the very first to push such an agenda no one was interested in at the time. So when people want to talk about Afrobeats and they want to talk about who deserves credit for Afrobeat, the genre itself, and the rise, people need to think twice before they start throwing names about. Because that conversation has been going on for a while, and a lot of times people like to credit the wrong people for the rise of the genre. But there's a lot more to the Afrobeat story. There's a lot more that people hate to talk about because it doesn't favor them or it doesn't favor their side of the story. For example, Abrantier, a lot of the superstars leading the charge with the Afrobeat scene right now don't even mention Abrantier. They don't even credit him. They don't even say thank you to him for the fact that he's actually responsible for the rise and popularization, the global popularization of that genre. It started from him. It started from his show on Choice. Anyway, Charlie, no long talk. This be Afrobeat Police again. Like videos on the channel, comment, subscribe. If you think I'm wrong, just hit the comment section. Say your mind. Like, write anything you want. We'll read it. We'll take the feedback, and we will work with them over again.